The Mastering Local Marketing podcast helps local small business owners like you understand what it takes to successfully market your business and drive new customers through your doors. We provide actionable insights, interview leading experts and business owners in various industries, as well as provide tips and tricks we've uncovered over the last 25 years in the field. Whether you're starting your business or you've been at it for decades, let us provide you with the education and resources you need to grow your customer base. It's time to start mastering your local marketing. Here's your host, Matt Hansen.
A lot of times we talk heavy digital stuff on this podcast, SEO, impressions, CPMs, and that is a big portion of what we talk about. Today we're going to talk a little bit more bricks and mortar with Matt Hansen and Jim Diedlow, and we're going to talk about having some local events around your bricks and mortar location. Great local marketing starts with great local connections, and sometimes you just got to look at people in the face, shake their hand, give them a hug, and be with them. And Matt Hansen has some experience with that in the past.
Yeah, we've got plenty of experience with that and variety of events and things like that, but we talk a lot about partnerships and really getting out there in the environment and really talking to people and really working together. And I know the last 20 episodes, we brought it up many times that you cannot run a business by yourself and that you need some assistance with it, right? So today, what I want to talk about is kind of 5 DIY events that you can run in your own local retail store that will drive traffic. And the reason I say it'll drive traffic is because I've done it with my clients and I've done it for my own businesses, so I know it works. And I think that's what we're trying to make sure that we do every time we shoot one of these podcasts, is literally to make sure that you have something to walk away with and you can go forward. And nothing holds more true than we were talking with Summer a couple episodes ago, and she's already implementing the things that we put out there. So we're going to do a follow-up with her later on, but she does a lot of these types of things with events. So I thought, let's take it one step further and share a couple of them that we go through here.
Where do holding events, where does that fit into the funnel? And remind people the funnel, because we come back to that.
Right. So the funnel, again, most basic funnel is awareness, consideration, and then, a purchase or a customer, right? When you're talking about awareness, those are people, you've got to get people to know who you are. And so we have that roughly 10 to 30% of people will know who you are, and you've got to boost that. And major brands are in the 90s, nobody's 100%. But what we're looking at here is a mixture of awareness as well as people that are already your customers. So we're talking the full funnel here, from awareness down to the customer level. So a lot of these events will be existing customers that you have, but they also work to drive awareness for new customers. So that's why I wanted to kind of bring this together, because it works the entire funnel from top to bottom.
So let's first talk, not everybody drinks, and we get that, but even people that don't drink like to maybe go places where, people are being jovial and festive. But one of the things that I've noticed, and I've been to a number of these because we have these customers, is some of the salons and the boutiques having a little wine tasting, and there might be a little bit of a wellness talk or something, but you're able to get into their locations. It actually works pretty well with golf, with all of these, net pars and stuff like that. But it's the sip, have a few sips and then talk about the business. Sometimes you don't talk about the business at all, but you bring people together just to have a drink.
Yeah, you're just, we call them sip and shop, right? So really the idea is have people in, have good conversation. Whether you drink or not, there's a huge movement at this point for the mocktails. So you could have mocktails, which are, non-alcoholic drinks. But really the idea is bring people together, have a conversation, get them used to the store, whatever, if you're talking about a Netgear, right, understanding what it is and the golf simulator. But it's a way to get to know people. And business is all about getting to know each other, and really you want to do business with people that you enjoy. You don't want to get in and deal with problem customers, and you don't want to deal with cranky old business owners that are, chasing people out their front door. So what ends up happening with these sip-in shops is really you're having a conversation with the owner, you're having a conversation with their workers, you're hearing all the ins and outs, they're providing you value of some sort. If it's a beauty salon or something like that, maybe they're telling you about the most recent trends that are going on, and maybe you get a new haircut or whatever it may be. But it's just a simple way to sit down and have a conversation with your customers. And many times those customers will also bring a friend, because quite honestly, if you're having a sip-in shop, they're not going to necessarily come in alone. So they're going to bring a friend or two, and maybe that friend or two has never been in. So, that awareness number has gone up just by them bringing 1, 2, 3 people with them.
Do you offer anything associated with these events?
Yeah, I mean, obviously always have some kind of offer that you can offer. When they come in,
half price off the next thing or something.
Right. Could be half price. It could be a special gift, right? Like we've talked about giving away free gifts in the past, things that don't necessarily cost a ton. The law of reciprocity and kind of giving, you give somebody something, they feel like they owe you something back. But, give something, whether it's a discount or some kind of freebie, or you mentioned giving kind of a presentation of some sort. So what is that value proposition that you've got there that you're giving to them? So, you see this a lot in the financial area, where they have people come in and they start talking about how to retire and all that. And, there's good ones and bad ones, and we won't get into that. But, giving something away is always a good sign or a deal is always a good way to kind of get people in the door.
So that's at your own place.
Right.
What about going to other people's places?
Yeah, I think, it's interesting because I've been part of a lot of businesses working together. And what you have is they have their customer base. And we were kind of talking about this before we got on, of kind of sharing audiences, and really kind of, they may not know who you are, and we may not know who they are, so you kind of merge the two together. So if there's a complementary business out there, if there's somebody that has the same audience, is in the same industry, that is willing to work with you, it's great, right? So one of the stores that I used to work with, small business, local, right? They used to do. Basically, they would piggyback 2 companies together, and then they would create a table at each other's company, right? So let's say I'm a florist, and down the street is a restaurant, the florist would put something into the restaurant, and they would have somebody talking about it, and then in the florist, as people came in, they would have, the restaurant would talk about what they offer, right? So it was this kind of an ability to market without necessarily putting a whole lot of effort into it, other than just having conversations and sharing information from one store to the other.
That is hard to find, but you do find them, especially if it's in complementary parts near the same niche.
Yeah, it's funny. We say it's hard to find, but when you start asking the questions, I would say that probably 60-70% will say, yeah, that sounds like a really good idea, right?
Give an example.
So I would say it was probably, 6-7 years ago. And we were talking about artist nights. And I had a friend of mine in another state that was working on this. And they had this event where they would have an art fair or whatever. And local artists would come in and showcase their different materials and things that they've done. And it would be sitting in a parking lot somewhere. And instead of doing it in a parking lot, we said, well, why don't you do it in the stores around the area? So they had kind of like a town square and whatever else. And with that, they took the artist and put at least 2 to 3 artists in each one of these stores. And then they handed out a map that would show you where all the artists were. And people would walk the square and go into all the shops. And it quickly became a monthly thing that they did. So 12 times out of the year, they had these artists set up, and this mass amount of traffic would come through, and everyone would kind of see it. And when I say artists, I'm not just talking about paintings or anything like that. It was paintings, it was jewelry, it was
Crafts.
anything you could think of. But they had to be, an artist of some sort. It was really interesting, and it boosted sales for the entire town because people would come in. It's kind of like car shows and everything else that they have. But I would say all it does is take one person to kind of start to develop that, because everyone's having the same problems. They're all trying to drive more traffic. And if you do this, if one person steps up and says, hey, let's do something like an art show, and people will go from point A to point B, it's definitely going to boost your sales. It's definitely going to boost your awareness. It's definitely going to boost your foot traffic as well.
This is one that I'm not a huge fan of. I've had, owned a newspaper, got some radio stations, got a TV network here, streaming video, and you go to the ad conferences, like what can you do to boost your numbers? And they always say this always shows up seasonal. What's coming up?
Yeah.
Start 6 months ahead of time, start hitting people, maybe 9, and get them on. I'm not a huge fan of that because we tend to have the long-term customer, and we don't really want kind of just people coming in and out. But we will have long-term customers that will want us to highlight something during Mother's Day or Valentine's or, going into Christmas, that kind of thing. But if you're a business, especially that might sell some arts and crafts, that kind of thing, seasonal is everything.
Right.
And you got to learn those events too.
Yeah. See, with each season, you get kind of a new idea. You've got Valentine's Day, you have Mother's Day, you have Father's Day, Easter, Christmas, Thanksgiving, etc. Right. One of the things that we used to do is we would do a Mother's Day pampering event, and we had a masseuse that would come in, we had a stylist that would come in, we had somebody that would do makeup. It was all these different things. We had food, we had champagne, and it was kind of a celebratory event of mothers. So our customers would bring their mothers in, and they loved it, right? And we'd sit around and talk and whatever else. And it was an interesting way to get people in, but people were enjoying themselves, right? So they could go and get a 5-minute massage from a massage chair, a masseuse, and everything else. They could get a facial. And it was funny because we were a home decor store back then, and you sit there and you're like, that's a little far-fetched, but it wasn't, because it was one of the most popular events that we had every single year. And people would drive for miles to come in. They're like, I just need this day. And we were talking before we got on today that I'm exhausted this week from everything that's going on. And Jim was kind of making fun of me, saying I look tired. So maybe I need a massage.
You'll fall asleep.
Somebody, right?
You'll get on the table and
right. But that simple event, we sent on a nice little postcard that on the front of it had somebody getting a massage, their hair wrapped up and whatever else. And it was just free events. Come on in. And we had different things located all over the store, and people just kind of walked around. And those events, I'm going to tell you right now, whether or not we offered a percentage off that day or not, we were still selling more than we were going to sell on a random Saturday.
In terms of getting active hands and getting people to do something, and inside your brick and mortar store, you can also do projects.
Right.
Talk about that.
My favorite one I've ever done is we were heading toward Christmas, and we were like, how do we get more people in the store? And so we were shopping for product. I was looking at it, and I said, well, we did this arts thing for this other business. What if we did ornaments? And so we went out and we found these gigantic plain white ornaments, right? The typical circle ornaments, but they were almost the size of a 16-inch softball, right? If you're from Chicago, you understand huge softballs, right? So they were these huge ornaments. They were plain, and we invited anyone that wanted to decorate an ornament to come in and decorate their ornament. And from that, we had, and I want to say we had roughly 30 ornaments that were all decorated, and we hung them up, and we had, we put their names on it, and we said, all right, we're going to have voting on this for the next, X number of days. So people would invite, if you decorated an ornament, everybody was like, well, I want mine to win.
So you got to go in there.
So people have to go in there and vote for it. So we had a ballot system and people could vote for it and all this other stuff. So whoever won the best ornament then got a gift card from us for the store, but then we also donated to the charity of their choice, right? So we had this fun way of driving more people because they were telling their friends and family to go vote. They were coming into the store, they were submitting ballots, which, mind you, the ballots had their contact information on it, so we're building our email list as well. And they're voting, and it's a way to basically get our customer base to go out there and push people into the store, which they did, and then they bought, right? Build our email list, and we had some fun with it too. I mean, some of these ornaments that people come up with were amazing. I mean, we had some that looked like the Grinch took over, but some of them were just absolutely pieces of art. And the funny part was, after we were all said and done with it, we actually auctioned off the ornaments and took that money for charity as well.
Does that work? Portion of sales, donation, drop-offs, pass it, that kind of stuff. Basically partnering with a charity at some level. Does that work?
It does if you're passionate about the charity, right? So I see it all the time with charities. Donate this, round up, whatever it may be. If you are passionate about a charity and if you can show that passion, I think you definitely are, right? So I lost my mother to pancreatic cancer. My son actually had cancer as well. So cancer is a big thing to me. So anytime I see anything relevant to cancer research and all of that, it is definitely something that I will donate or whatever, help in any capacity. If it's something that's irrelevant to me, then not necessarily, right? So everyone has their own passions, their own charities that they want to be part of. But if you're going to pull in a charity, make sure that it's relevant to you. So don't just go out there and pick a charity and say, I'm going to do this one because it's big or whatever. Do it because it matters to you, and let the passion of that charity come through when you're out there doing it. But if you're doing a charity drop off or rounding up or whatever it may be, just make sure that it's authentic. I think that's probably the most difficult thing. You hear a lot of these people and they're like, oh, we do this for charity and this. That's great, but what's the connection to you?
So those are events that you can have. I think there's 5 of them: the sip and shop, pop-ups, seasonal, DIY or workshop, and then the one we just talked about in charity. So let's say you do decide to have one of these events. How do you tell people?
Yeah, well, I mean, at this point hopefully you have some kind of list, right? Whether it's an addressable list through the mail, send a postcard. You can get out there on the local radio stations and start promoting it that way. You can send press releases to your local media, whether it's a newspaper or whatever. You can get out there and start emailing people. You can partner with local chambers and say, hey, these are things we're doing. And you can utilize the companies that you're partnering with and say, hey, we've got to promote this, so let's start targeting our own customers. So, I mean, just a question that you ask, I give you 5-6 different ways to go about doing it right there. But start early. Don't say, oh, this weekend, today's Thursday, it's Saturday, let's have an event. Don't do that. Plan ahead. Make sure that all your ducks are in a row and that you're getting the message out there well before it happens so people can check it off on their list. I think, we're so busy at this point that we're probably 3, 4, 5 weeks out already planning. And as we get into the summertime, it's a little bit, it's even worse. If you've got high school aged kids and open houses and everything else that goes on, I mean, the summer's gone like that. But just plan ahead and then use all the resources that you have to get the word out.
There it is, episode 23, 5 local events that drive foot traffic, a little bit different from much of the stuff that we hit. If you're a small one place business or you've got a chain of them, all this stuff should apply. Don't forget, like us and download our episodes just about wherever you get your podcast. Thanks a lot, Matt.
Yep, thank you.
All right, until next time, we'll see you later.
The Mastering Local Marketing Podcast helps local small business owners like you understand what it takes to successfully market your business and drive new customers through your doors. We provide actionable insights, interview leading experts and business owners in various industries, as well as provide tips and tricks we've uncovered over the last 25 years in the field. Whether you're starting your business or you've been at it for decades, let us provide you with the education and resources you need to grow your customer base. It's time to start mastering your local marketing.